I want to do a quick overview on sentence correction, how to attack it. So we'll keep this quick, but I'm going to focus on the other videos on the decision points and screens I make to help me get down to the right answer. So sentence correction is a process of elimination game, and the most important thing for attacking it is staying organized. So on your paper, I want you to write out A, B, C, D, E, and drop a vertical line and then a horizontal line across the top like that to create a grid. And in this grid, we're going to keep track of our answer choices. Now, I typically only make the first column when I'm attacking the first question, then drop it down another line for question number 2 and 3 and so on. And the reason that we use the grid is, number one, it's very quick to write out. Number two, it's very efficient in terms of how much space it takes up. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And you don't have to number the columns when you're doing the actual test, because you're not going to be able to go back to questions and you're not going to be able to keep that laminated sheet or booklet that they give you to work on during the test. So it's irrelevant to write out numbers that you're never going to be able to go back and look for. So looking at this sentence correction question, one thing to note is that the question stem up top always has answer choice A as its underlined portion. So you'll notice here the answer choice A looks exactly like the underlined portion of the sentence up top. Now we have a number of screens, and you'll go through the other videos and learn all about those before attacking the homework. But the screens that jump out to me when I read this sentence: having never flown on a plane before, John prepared for the worst, but pleasantly he was surprised by the whole experience. And you hear me kind of trip over that, and the reason is partially I'm like anticipating things because my ear picks up on sentence structure and it begins to anticipate what the next part of the sentence looks like. Which obviously it was a little different than my ear anticipated because I tripped over it as I read it. That can sometimes help you identify where to start looking for screens, but we don't want to use our ear as our main screen. Most people use it as a crutch, and that's a major problem. We have to have a technical way of approaching this. So having never flown on a plane before, this is modifying John, right? Well, looking through my other sentences quickly, this one has John's preparation as the main subject here, and this one has the worst of John's preparation as the subject that follows right after this. And this cannot logically be modified by the opening statement there. So never having flown on a plane before, John's preparation. No, it should be never having flown on a plane before, John, and same thing here. So B and C are out for me. These are great black and white screens. There's no gray area. That's definitively wrong for me. Now looking back at answer choice A, having never flown on a plane before, John prepared for the worst, but pleasantly he was surprised by the whole experience. I don't hate it. Honestly, it's awkward, but when answer choice A is awkward, I want to hold it, because answer choice A will often be awkward when it's actually the right answer. Because the only way they can trick you if they're giving you the right answer in the actual sentence stem up top that you get to read as a whole, the only way they could trick you is if they make it sound really awkward. So I think that A is not bad, and I would hold on to this. Looking at D, having never flown on a plane before, John prepared for the worst and led to him being pleasantly surprised by the whole experience. This is not parallel around the word and. I feel like John prepared and led. So this sounds good, but John prepared for the worst and John led to him being pleasantly surprised. This is parallelism. The word led is parallel with prepared, which means anything that came before prepared should be implied right here before the word led. So I should be able to read it as two separate sentences, but it doesn't sound good if I read it as John led to him being pleasantly surprised. John didn't lead to him being pleasantly surprised himself. The fact that John prepared for the worst maybe led to him being pleasantly surprised, but not actually John. So that's out for me. I'm going to cross out D. I think that's a black and white screen as well. Answer choice E, never having flown on a plane before, John prepared for the worst but was pleasantly surprised, okay, by the whole experience. I think that that is a good sentence, and so I would hold that. I'm between A and E. Which one's superior to me? Notice the differences: having never flown, never having flown. I don't like to make decisions on the first part of the sentence when it's obvious to everyone that there is a difference between those words. Because a lot of times those are just like smoke and mirrors that are not real good screens, but just meant to take weaker test takers and make them go for the decision that sounds better to their ear. I think having never flown sounds better, but never having flown might not technically be incorrect. So both of these are properly modifying John. Now on the back end, prepared for the worst, but pleasantly he was surprised, or prepared for the worst, but was pleasantly surprised. I think that answer choice E is more parallel because John prepared and John pleasantly he was surprised. I don't feel like I need the word he, and this should be the verb coming right after but because we have the verb here. So this is not a parallel structure in A, actually, the more I look at it, and I'm going to get rid of A, and that leads me to answer choice E. Now, this is how we attack every sentence correction question, and if I weren't speaking out loud, it wouldn't have taken 6 minutes. So you should be able to get through these quickly in under 2 minutes. I shoot for about 1:30, and if you follow the process of reading the question stem, read it for meaning, try to understand what's being said, look for like initial screens if you can find anything. Unless you find something that absolutely kills A, hold it, move down to B, evaluate it, and now as you move down the list, you're evaluating relative to other answers. So if B looks exactly like A but has a difference that makes it sound not quite as good, and I'm careful about it, I can cross out B because I already have A. And A would be like a better version of B in that scenario I just painted, so I wouldn't need to hold on to B anymore. And I plug through my list and I try to find situations that I can hold on to and then finally evaluate whatever's left and make a decision and move on. And we have tiebreakers when we're in a pinch, and those tiebreakers are which of the sentences is the clearest in meaning that you have left over after you make your screens, which is the most concise, and finally, if you have to absolutely in a pinch, use your ear, which do you prefer just from the way it sounds to you?